Charlie, without further ado, over to you.
Thanks, Remco. So, I mean, Nidhi and Ukash have both spoken a lot about some of the successes. I'll speak much more about the failures. I love storytelling. I did a master's in literature. I found that a lot of the work I've done has been involving storytelling, but most of my experience with space communication has been fairly unsuccessful, I would say. So in the pandemic, I mean, the story I would talk about when it comes to space communication, in the pandemic, as a lot of people did, I thought I'd start a podcast. Now, thinking about Nidhi's nice list of all the things you need to have in a campaign, I thought, don't need any of that. Let's just get started and see what happens. And unsurprisingly, it went poorly. Very, very poorly. We didn't know who we were trying to reach. We didn't know what the message we were trying to talk about was. We had no idea what outcomes we were trying to get to. Did we have fun? Yes, sometimes. Was it successful? Yes, also, actually. I mean, we had like 500 likes on Facebook. I mean, we had something for some of the events, over 10,000 impressions. So I think what I would say is, there's definitely, you don't have to have everything to get started. When we got started, I didn't have a podcaster. I mean, all of my equipment came from thinking, okay, I need to actually look and sound professional if I'm going to be doing this kind of stuff. You don't need everything to get started. Often you just need the capacity to talk to people. Our format was just on Facebook. We just had 3 people, and with 3 or 4 people when we talk about a certain element of the space sector. We did that. I think let me boil it down to where I think we went really wrong, or not wrong, because there was no real outcome. It was a voluntary thing, but where we would have done a lot better. First of all, know what you're trying to talk about and who with. I mean, we went from space resources to space law to video games in space. If you're trying to reach a certain type of person, you need to be fairly consistent with what you're talking about. Otherwise, they'll join in for one and then sack out for the rest. And there's no consistency. So I think being consistent in what you talk about. I think structure, you know, we talked about you can do a lot of this for free. Yes, but it's hard work. You know, we ran 2 seasons and I think 25 episodes, each of an hour plus length. And even just getting in touch with people and getting them agreed to a specific time or date, that was so hard. We had long lists of 30 people that we were trying to get to talk about a specific thing at a specific hour on a specific day. And reaching out to 30 people and trying to get them all to fit together was an absolute nightmare. It can be done, but try and plan as far in the future as we can. More often than not, we plan 2 weeks in advance. That's really hard to do something 2 weeks in advance to get people from around the globe to, and this was during a pandemic when no one was even leaving their house. It was the best possible time to get people on to talk about something. If you can plan in advance, and I think that's one of the things that we definitely didn't do great. I think those are my 2. I think space communication, the more you can understand what you're trying to say and who you're trying to say it to, and then just kind of put some work together to getting ahead of yourself, whatever it is, whether you're doing, whether it's an event, whether it's an email, rather than constantly playing catch up. Trust me, it's hard and it doesn't work. I'm going to stop there because I realize we've only got about 10 minutes and I want to give more time for a chat.
So why did you stop, Charlie?
Because it was way too hard work and we're just like, this is just not worth it anymore. We were just struggling to get, I think you get to the point where your network's kind of tapped out of people. And we had great people, you know, we had the chief scientist of NASA, we had CEOs of space companies, and then we're just like, okay, this is getting increasingly hard to get new people on and increasingly difficult to find new things to talk about.
Okay, I see hands up with Lukash. Lukash?
Oh, Charlie, welcome to the club, because this is also, the disaster I can observe with other project I also made. So it was this kind of, talks, inviting people. But now I found a solution that, because there is a massive amount of, podcasts, video casts right now. Everyone wants to do it. And the problem is that everyone wants to do it on her own. That's a problem. Mm-hmm. So actually, the problem is that we, as producers of this, we don't think about our audience that will have a huge problem which one to choose. You don't have any whole day to just, watch the videos. Oh, I go to that, and today I will go to this podcast. No, I will go to that one. That's impossible. People hate because it's too much. So maybe the solution is to connect forces. Because I'm coming from the perspective, I love to connect forces. I love to, create this kind of people that are joining forces and doing something together. Then by together, then we can do it something more. For example, you don't have to do it 2 weeks in advance, but 2 months in advance, because your term will be every 2 months, for example. If there will be 5 people doing this. Right?
Yeah, and I think that's a great way to think about it, is if you've got 5 different sets of people doing one podcast, one each,
Yep.
then God, you've only got to do one, as you say, once every 2.5 months. That's much easier to work on. But you're right that we all want to do our own thing rather than, and there's that great proverb that people trot out far too much. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Yeah, absolutely.
So after having the podcast and talk about in Space Cafe, then I was I will be reaching Torsten for that with some idea, because joining forces and joining, for example, with Torsten, from my point of view, will give me the same road to reach my goals. But generally, I won't have to build a brand, because doing the podcast is one thing, building a brand of it is a total way. You have to put your money into commercials, right?
Yeah. And that's the thing. That's actually, I wanted to ask you about that, Nidhi, because SciComm is obviously, I think it's voluntary. I hope it's voluntary, or I hope it's not voluntary. I hope you get paid a lot of money to do it.
Most of it is.
But how do you get that balance? Because it's so consistent. It's fantastic.
So for me with SciComm Chat, I think I see it as look, that's the only thing I'm really consistent about. It's the SciComm Chat. And I think it's because so many people are part of it. I can't slack it out.
Yeah, you can't let anyone down.
That's the one thing in my diary that I'm like, I'm not saying thousands of people are coming, but at least 10 people are coming. 10 people are relying on that particular chat on that particular day. You can't let them down. With my own stuff, you will see my website has not been updated since, I think, end of September. I had a really good go. I had like 12 weeks of posting something every week. I would never do every day, every week. And it works fine. It works perfectly. It's fine. It's simple. But as soon as it comes to doing it after, like now I'm playing catch up. I've not uploaded anything on my website. Yeah. There's nothing on there. In fact, I ended up spending 4 weeks revamping my entire website. So what, for me, it started out as a blog. It started out as, I had a cancer scare. I'd like to communicate more about it. I didn't know SciComm was a thing. I knew I was doing it. I just didn't realize it was a term that people were actually using and it could make money. Didn't know any of that. And I think I have bursts of being very consistent and then going to absolutely nothing. So right now, I'm on my
like consistency to me at all.
So I'm on my
consistently and totally inconsistent. Yeah. I'm very good at the nothing
I have
part.
12 weeks where I'm like, right, let's do this. And then something happens. I'm like, well, something's got to give. So it's usually my own website that gives. Because I couldn't not be consistent with my client work. At the end of the day, that's where the money's coming in. Like, yes, what I'm doing will eventually bring more money, but it's such a long game. I can't always see that it's leading somewhere.
I often feel like once I've done that little blast of work, and then the gap begins. As soon as the gap gets past like 2 or 3 weeks, I'm like, oh no, and I'll never come back to it. And it's this feeling, it's so daunting just to start again, because you think, well, people will be like, you stopped posting. And no one cares, but it's there in your head, isn't it? This idea that you're like, okay, well, I've stopped now. I can't start again. And then you have to kind of, it's the doorstep mile, isn't it? It's because you're starting all over again.
Yes, but I figured out a hack for it, if you'd like to.
Yes, please.
Obviously, I used it for 12 weeks. But with SciComm Chat, I've done it consistently for 10 months, almost at the end of 10 months. I started it 2nd of January 2021 up until the 21st of October. I haven't missed a single one. I've done it consistently, no questions asked. So the hack is to make a promise publicly.
Oh,
Make a
nice.
public promise, and then just keep giving.
Yeah.
Literally, that's the hack. And the more prepared you are, the better you will be. Like, as you've already figured it out.
I did a similar thing. I was planning to go on a really long bike trip, and I was terrified. And so I thought, okay, I'll just tell everyone I know. And then if I don't do it, I'll be far too embarrassed. So I have to go. And that's it. That's eventually what happened.
It worked, right? There we go.
I'll use the power of peer pressure to force me to do something I don't want to do. Yeah.
Well, it works. It's not that you don't want to do it. The fact is you did want to do it to begin with. That's why you signed up. Eventually, it's just daunting. So it's trying to figure out that balance. Every once in a while, if you can't publish something, if you can't post something, people are understanding enough. And fortunately, people have become more understanding thanks to the pandemic. The silver linings we're looking at here. But people are starting to understand that consistency is difficult. And I'm not saying we're making excuses for what we do. It's sometimes you need a break.
I'm making excuses constantly, I find.
I mean, the way I see it, sometimes you need a break. But having said that, I'm going to shoot myself in the foot and say, I'm going to write a blog post about campaigns, or I'm going to do a couple of blog posts about campaigns. I have a massive list of campaigns I want to talk about. I want to analyze things, and I like the nitty-gritty analysis type of thing. So this is me shooting myself in the foot. So soon, I'm not going to give it a date. Soon you will start seeing content like that one on my website and on my social media. So, well,
I think we should try to shoot ourselves in the foot as well. I'm looking at a few of my colleagues here, because we need to start our blog post as well.
True, we do.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
if you ever need a writer
in the next week.
Always needy. You're always welcome. It's this general thing. Everyone is invited to join Powering Space. We are working on some very exciting things that we will, continuously share on the social media accounts. So you can find us on Twitter. You can find us on LinkedIn. You can find us on Facebook. And we're still looking forward to sharing more, and also sharing what we've been working on the past year, actually, right, Remco? It's been the past year, I think.
It's been only the first year, so yes, exactly. We haven't seen the most of this yet, so we're full of ideas. But as you say, Needy, committing publicly sometimes is a good idea. So I'm not going to commit to more than what I've said already, because in this case, not just me, it's a group of us. So I'm not going to commit for other people.
Oh, so you start pulling up the group, right?
So I think we can actually publicly call for more volunteers, though. If we want to make this really an amazing organization for space comm and space outreach, and for this to work, we need more volunteers. We have one in the group right here. It's Emma. She's been following as well, who is working on actually a podcast. So we'll share more about that soon as well. She's already done one for Space Watch, which you can find on their profile. And yes, please do join if you want to help us communicate. If you want to network with communicators, you are more than welcome. It'll be amazing, I promise.
Absolutely.
I promise shooting myself in the foot as well.
No, I think this is what we are trying to do. So this is definitely not shooting ourselves in the foot. This is what we stand for and what we have committed to already.
Just making a promise, eh?
Yes.
Exactly.
On that note, though, sorry, because you're into space communication, I was going to talk about Angry Bird Space. That was the campaign I was going to talk about. Does anybody? I don't know if we're running out of
Which
time.
one? Sorry, can you say that again?
The Angry Birds, the space one.
Oh, Angry Bird Space. Oh, wow. Okay.
So I have a video that I was going to share, which is quite nice. I can put it in the link, or if you want to
put it in the chat, because we're running out of time, I'm afraid.
But that's the one that I think a lot of people would really, really like. And it's essentially using Angry Birds to get people to be interested about space and space communication and what's happening out there. And I think it's a very, very effective tool. It's very effective at communication. I think what they did is they used the Space Needle in Seattle, and they put like a massive Angry Bird on it, because that was the little thing that they were using to, there's like you pull the Angry Bird, the catapult, is that what it's called?
It's been a while since I've played it. But
Slingshot.
yes, that's
It's a
more or less how
slingshot.
it works.
Ah,
Yeah.
the slingshot. There we go. So they use the Space Needle as a thing to like
To launch them.
send the birds over and things. And honestly, I loved the campaign. So I thought that somebody else would cover it, but I'm glad that nobody did, because then I can share this video with you guys. But it's done so well. Hopefully it doesn't stop playing. Damn it. Sorry, I'm really bad at trying to
If
figure
it's
this
really
out.
short, Needy, because we are running out of time.
It is 2 minutes, but I can send it on as a link if you.
Send it as the link, and maybe that's a good thing for us to write something about.
It's genuinely, it's a fun watch. And then what they did was they also got a NASA scientist on like in outer space to show what it's like to actually have like a little angry bird, and then he made like a little pig and he tried to like sling it over. So it was like a very nice real life experience that kind of helped educate about space and space research. The idea for them long term was to get children involved in space research or exposed to space research at an earlier time in their lives. So then they can eventually decide whether or not they want to go into space research.
Well, and that's exactly what many of us work on. So I'm really happy to hear from well, someone who is less informed about space, how you got in touch with this, because that's really what these campaigns are all about, is to reach outside of your own bubble. And we talk about the space bubble a lot also in Lunch and Learn, is how to reach people outside the space bubble, people who have not been convinced yet that space is cool, and using computer games, video games is a great way to reach people who are interested in that topic and learn about space that way. With that, I'm going to call it a day for today.